It is interesting. Like, you and I have talked about how there's been a lack of tension at camp this year, as opposed to like the pressure of Deshaun last year. I think it's interesting. Like, I don't know whether to agree or disagree with Diana on this, but I think it's really interesting coming off a 3-14 season that would be the takeaway or the feel from this.
If I'm just being, I respect Diana, you know I do, but I can't take anyone that says last year is what I'm basing this off of. I just can't look at that as being serious, only because when we were there last year, much different vibe than what it is this year. And that doesn't mean they're going to be a better football team. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying last year it felt like it was very laissez-faire. Last year it felt like it was very relaxed. Last year it felt like there wasn't much of a plan going on. People just kind of showed up and things just kind of happened. This year feels very regimented. This year feels like there's a plan. This year feels like they're playing with intensity and there's an actual purpose to what they're trying to do. It's a stark contrast considering that last year they entered with such high aspirations and this year they enter with basically zero. But the approaches are night and day, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because I think last year I talked about the pressure, and then you never release that pressure, right? Like Deshaun blows out his Achilles, you got the Baltimore win, and then you went right in the crapper. And there was the brief fun with the Pittsburgh game, but by and large, you went from incredible pressure to just this is a massive letdown and you can't get your wheels turning. I kind of feel like when you're coming out of that situation and you don't have, like, I know the veterans can rally around Joe because they like Joe. They know Joe, right? They trust Joe, but he's still a 41-year-old quarterback. Like, there was nothing this offseason that the Browns did that reset the bar or reset the energy in that building. So I would almost be like, if I heard, there's a lot of juice in that building, I'd be like, from what? Like this, I think this is where they're supposed to be if there is a lack of juice.
I guess I'm confused what she means by the juice part of it. If I was thinking, well, okay.
She said Denver's got this hell of a incredible buy-in. That's what it sounded like to me.
Which is odd. Again, not that Denver's got a buy-in, although we are hearing that. Obviously, we had Albert on yesterday. He couldn't stop raving about what Sean Payton's trying to sell over there, as if Sean Payton is auctioning off like the greatest team to ever be assembled. But I thought she was getting more at the idea of like, look at all the playmakers everywhere, and when you go to some of these other camps and look at all the people, and it's like we still have a lot of the same guys that you would have brought up last year if you were impressed by last year. But it was such a different feel to it all that's why I feel just so differently. Even though the win-loss outcome might not end up being differently, the approach seems different to me.
I know players are never going to outwardly say this, which makes it hard to judge, in fairness to what Diana's saying about a lack of juice. But what I hear is buy-in. And if the organization, and players are not dumb. I know players are incredibly focused, and I know players have learned to compartmentalize what's going on with the team and where am I in my career, what is my job in this situation. They're also humans. And I think it would be wildly unrealistic to expect 90 guys to get bought into this plan when you're coming off 3-14 and you had an offseason where the organization told you we're going to if we had a bad slogan for this season, it would be we're going to see how it plays out. These guys are human. And that, by the way, it doesn't mean that they don't think they can win. It doesn't mean that, that they're doomsday or whatever. I'm sure that they all expect to be better than people expect them to be. But if that happens, it's going to be a slow build over time. Almost like 2023, where there were a lot of fits and starts and false starts within that season, and then you hit that 5-game stretch with Flacco in 2023. If this team's going to surprise, it might be that they start out 5-5 and then hit the switch. Just because you're coming out of the muck with an okay-ish team, and players are smart enough to know. I think it would be wildly understandable if the players viewed this as a wait and see, meaning, we like Kevin Stefanski, we like the situation, but we'll see where it goes.
So, but I think one of the big differences from last year to this year, though, is that you have so many more spots that people are competing for jobs. And this year, just look at the offensive side of the ball, and you can make an argument that there's not a position out there that is guaranteed. You have all sorts of wide receivers that are going for jobs, quarterbacks that are going for jobs. You talk about the running back situation. Now that Judkins isn't there, you got to battle for running back spots and running back carries. The tight end spot, and Njoku's still looking for an extension, and you have Fannin in the mix as well. And we're just talking offensive side of the ball. It just like last year, it felt like more of the positions were solidified and more of the structure was known. I think why there's more juice, or why it seems like there's more juice for me this year, is because everyone feels like they're playing for their football lives out there every single practice we were at.
I think the Browns are in wait and see mode, and or let's see how it plays out is probably the better way to say. And I think it's totally understandable that the players might be as well. And that doesn't mean, by the way, they're not bought in. But like buy-in, it's like culture. Buy-in is like a sliding scale here. And if you're any of those veterans, knowing this might be your last year, knowing that if you start the season 0-6, several of you are going to be riding the pine here as younger guys replace you, because you could turn the page to 2026 quicker than any team in football besides maybe the Saints. I don't know how that's not an understanding of like, well, I'm bought in as much as I can be bought in coming off 3-14 and knowing where this season could go if we don't hit the ground running week one.
I just don't even think it's a buy-in of necessarily trying to win the Super Bowl. I think it's more a buy-in of they got to compete for jobs, and this is their football lives. Like I just think these things it's all so precious that they have to take it serious, and they have to make sure that every rep they have out there matters. It's just a different setup than what it was last year.
Mike Silver says the darndest things in his is it an expose? His write-up for The Athletic of the Browns quarterback situation. There were a lot of things. There was Joe Flacco saying, I know I can still do this. Mm-hmm. I didn't read anything past when Mike wrote that after the Browns took Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round, that multiple teams called the Browns with trade offers for Dillon Gabriel, and the Browns rejected them out of hand, as the Browns preferred to move forward with both rookies. I'm not saying Mike made this up. I am saying I feel like somebody within the organization made this up, because it doesn't sound real to me.
I'm just trying to think of what the trades would have looked like, right? Would it have been like a 6th round pick? Is the suggestion that they would have traded, they just took a 3rd round pick on Dillon Gabriel to then trade him off for like a 5th or a 6th rounder for next year? Is that the suggestion? Because that's just it is a bananas way of looking at it.
Yeah.
Who would do that?
Also, teams don't traditionally call other teams after drafting a player and be like, what do you want for him?
No, because they could have had that player.
Yes.
We just did the draft. You could have done that. If you really loved him, you could have done that. I just wonder if
this happens in fantasy football, by the way, all the time when guys get snaked right in front of you.
It just feels like I don't know. The suggestion is that because they got Shedeur on a discounted deal, there's no way that they could have moved forward with Dillon Gabriel. So the Browns were going to own themselves immediately and just be like, we lost and we made a dumb decision 24 hours ago.
My spin on it when I read it was the Browns really want to push back on the idea that the only people that had a 3rd round grade on Dillon Gabriel were the Cleveland Browns, by then saying, well, he had trade value, without like tying it to somebody offered him a 2nd round for him or somebody offered their future 3rd round.
I mean, there's a 0% chance someone offered a better than where Dillon Gabriel was selected pick for Dillon Gabriel after the draft.
Would agree, but I do think, like, as soon as I read it, I was like, well, if you're the Browns, you're probably sick of hearing nobody else around football liked him. And so I don't think it was also coincidence within that same piece that an AFC executive was like, he's got a great arm. He does this really well. He reads the field really well. He's just really short. Mm-hmm. The piece that Mike wrote for The Athletic it's really good. It gives you good insight on the Browns quarterback situation. But when I read that, I just thought to myself, like, okay, so this goes back to the idea of like, this is the most obvious ploy that you could possibly have of, no, we weren't the only guy. To me, it actually spoke of a little Dillon panic of like, you're trying to defend the selection 3 months after you took the kid, and he's stinking it up in practice. And now you're like, no, a lot of people wanted Dillon Gabriel.
Well, and so that's why I wonder if in like a week or so or a week and a half, the one leak that we have for people being interested might be 2. There might be a Kenny Pickett. Oh, teams are calling about Pickett, and then there might be one for Dillon Gabriel as well, because they just want to make it seem like they're better than they are.
Yeah, and that's so the Pickett stuff. it's gotten so blatant with Schefter and Rappaport that, because again, Adam was there was a video tweeted out where Adam's like, the Browns really are going to be carrying 4 quarterbacks on the open roster.
Mm-hmm.
Not unlike they're going to carry it across this and the practice squad. No. He asserts that the Browns are determined. It is more likely than not the Browns are going to carry 4 quarterbacks on the 53-man roster, which is asinine considering most teams don't even carry 3 quarterbacks on the active roster.
It's what they'd want you to think right now. It's interesting, though. So I saw in a couple spots people talking about Matthew Stafford and the injury that's going on there, and he's supposed to be ready for week 1, but they were making the suggestion that Shedeur balls out this Friday, and then all of a sudden teams will call, and by teams they mean the Rams, call for Shedeur Sanders services, because Jimmy Garoppolo is their backup, and Jimmy Garoppolo at this point, he's not. The only place he's scoring is with porn stars, okay? He's not scoring on the field. That man is...
And he is doing that, just so we're clear.
Toast, okay? She couldn't score in a morgue right now, that guy, nonetheless on the football field. The point is...
personal there.
Is that, he's so good looking that it's a crime against everyone.
You're fed up with him?
They keep giving him these jobs based off of what I believe is just that. There's no way Sean McVay thinks he can actually play football at this point. And so the suggestion there is, well, okay, Shedeur will ball out on Friday, and then the Rams will call up, and then they'll try to make a trade for Shedeur, and then Shedeur can have a landing spot, will have more opportunities, and he won't be jockeying against so many quarterbacks, and then he'll be in a Ram system that's very friendly to quarterbacks, and on the list goes, right? But really the conversation should be centered around what does Dillon offer, and then what does Kenny Pickett offer? And that would be how the Browns keep their own momentum going. Because the Shedeur Sanders thing, there's no feather in the cap with the Browns attached to that.
I just think what all of the quarterback innuendo and little micro reports that we have out there, and the Dillon certainly is the chief among them, is that at this point, people around football are eating up whatever drama they inherit with this quarterback position. And all that's happened is that, like, Dillon and Shedeur have gotten hurt. Dillon and Kenny Pickett have gotten hurt, and Joe's got a bunch of first-team reps. Like, there's really, like, nothing's really happened with this quarterback because like Dillon's gotten some opportunities, hasn't looked good. And then he got hurt. Like every little bit of intrigue here has turned into some sort of an injury or malady or some sort of a roadblock that has kind of taken some of the sexy out of the 4-way quarterback. So, like, I don't know, the Browns trying to re-inject some more and try to get people lathered up for going into week 1 so somebody gives up a 6th-round pick for Kenny Pickett?
I mean, hasn't that kind of been the thinking the entire time? Is they're just trying to get some value out of these guys? Because they care so much about getting a 5th-round or a 6th-round value. And they put so much energy in that in ways that other teams just don't really even bother.